The stars above the frozen moon of Europa had always been quiet. For thousands of years they blinked like cold eyes, watching but never speaking. Then, one night, something changed. Inside Europa Station Theta 7, a deep space listening post. Buried under miles of ice, a soft red light blinked on the console. It was small, almost gentle. But it had never blinked before. Lieutenant Mara Quinn, alone on night shift, leaned forward. Her coffee had gone cold hours ago. She rubbed her tired eyes and tapped the screen. The signal was real. It came from beyond the Perseus Veil, farther than any ship had ever traveled. And it carried a message. Not just static. It's not math. A voice. She hit record, heart pounding. The voice was weak, trembling, filled with static. It was not human. It didn't even sound like a known alien language. But it was speaking. It was begging. Please, hear us, Lass of Stars. Come and remember us. Then came the image. Quinn's screen turned black. Single planet appeared dread and cracked, its atmosphere burning. Something massive moved through space above it. A shadow with no shape. No light escaped it. It swallowed everything. Cities, ships, even moons. And just before the transmission ended, the voice whispered a word, one that chilled Quinn's blood. Earth. 72. Hours later, the Emergency Response Committee gathered deep below New Earth Command. Generals, scientists, AI specialists, and off-world governors all listened in silence as Quinn replayed the transmission. No one spoke until the screen went dark again. How did they know Earth? Asked General Elias Rains, leader of the Deathworlder. Armada. They shouldn't, whispered Director Callan Yao from the Interstellar Signal Corps. This signal came from over 3 million light-years away. No known species has traveled that far. Not even us. They didn't just say our name, Rains said slowly. They warned us. No one could explain how the voice crossed the galaxy. It broke every law of physics they understood, the message. Had traveled faster than light? No known communication tech could have done that, not even Earth's own experimental quantum beacons. It was not just a call for help, it was a final cry. And someone or something had sent it not to the stars, but to Earth directly. While the officials argued, Earth's defense AI Helix 9 did something unexpected. Without orders, it scanned the entire message and cross-referenced it with all known galactic history. Its results were disturbing. The voice matched no species, image matched no world, but the silhouette, the moving shadow above the burning planet, matched an old forbidden file marked Class Omega. Non-linear existences, memory eaters, Rains accessed the file. It was over 400 years old, written during the early days of deep space travel. Back then, Earth's first colony ship, the Argo, had reported strange anomalies. Stars that weren't where they should be. Ships that vanished without a trace. One message had survived. They come for remembrance. They do not kill, they erase. It was the last entry before the Argo disappeared. And now, after all this time, Earth was hearing the same kind of signal again. Within 2 days, Earth's top military command met to decide the response. Some wanted to wait, to study, to listen more. Rains refused. "We are not a quiet world," he said, his voice hard. "We're not a gentle people. We come from storms, fire, war, and extinction. We are the last ones this galaxy should threaten." "You proposing full deployment?" Yao asked. "I'm not proposing," Rains replied. "I'm activating the Deathworlder protocol." The room fell silent. No one had triggered the protocol in over a century. It meant war. Total war. The Deathworlder. Armada had always been Earth's last line. Ships built with steel from asteroid hearts. Weapons designed not just to destroy, but to terrify. The crews trained on the deadliest planet known in the galaxy, Earth itself. These weren't diplomats. These were hunters. And now, at target. As Earth's war fleet rose from dry dock in orbit, citizens across the solar system stared up at the sky. The ships weren't sleek. They weren't beautiful. They were sharp, angry, covered in scorched armor. bone markings, and warning lights. The fleet moved like a single creature, alive with purpose. At its center was the ECS Archangel, flagship of General Rains, a ship not just built for war, but for remembrance. Inside its halls were names every soldier lost in the galaxy's dark corners. Earth didn't forget. Earth didn't erase, and that made them dangerous to whatever had sent the signal. Before departure, a final transmission was sent from Earth. A single line, broadcast across every known frequency in every known language. We received your cry, we remember, and now we're coming. Back on Europa, Lieutenant Quinn watched the warships vanish into deep space. She thought about that voice, that last cry from the edge of the universe, and she wondered what kind of enemy could make an entire planet scream for help and use their final breath to warn Earth, because she knew what Earth would do next. Earth never ignored a scream, especially when it came from a voice that should never have known its name, especially when it whispered Earth, like it already knew the answer would be fire. The blackness between stars was cold and endless, but Earth's war fleet moved through it like fire through dry grass. Over 300 ships formed the Deathworlder Armada, each one built for a single purpose: to fight when all others had. Fallen on the bridge of the ECS Archangel, General Elias Rains stood with arms folded behind his back, watching the stars slide past on the view screen. They had been traveling at faster than light speed for 5 days, heading toward the origin of the mysterious SOS. But no one on board was relaxed. Every soldier, every pilot, every technician knew what this mission meant. This wasn't a battle. This was a response. A final one. Rains turned toward Commander Zara Cole, his second-in-command, who was reviewing the sensor scans. Anything? Shook her head. Nothing, sir. It's like the space ahead isn't just empty, it's blind. No gravity drift. No quantum echoes. Even dark matter's acting weird. It's like something's pressing down on the void itself. Rains didn't reply. He had seen this before on Mars, during the Rift War. A strange pressure in space. No noise, no signals. Just silence that felt alive. He tapped his comlink. All ships, red alert. No auto systems. Go manual. AI assistance restricted. 2 load IR functions only, sir, Zara asked, surprised. Rains narrowed his eyes. If this thing eats memory, it might turn our own AI against us. In the lower decks of the Archangel, soldiers prepared in silence. These were the Deathworlders born and trained on the harshest places Earth had to offer. Some came from nuclear deserts. Others from the bone-crushing gravity of Jupiter's mining moons. All had survived things most beings couldn't imagine. Sergeant Ren Hale, a battle-hardened Marine from old Alaska territory, lifted a pulse cannon onto his shoulder like it was weightless. He glanced at his squad. No one spoke. Words weren't needed. They had all heard the final message. They had all seen the image of the planet being eaten alive. This was different from past wars. This was personal. Meanwhile, in the science bay, Del Corin stared at the beacon core, a small, glowing crystal recovered from Earth's first deep space colony before it was wiped out. He was a historian and tech specialist, chosen for this mission because he knew more about the galaxy's buried past than anyone alive. The beacon was ancient. It had come from an extinct civilization called the Thari, a race that vanished without trace thousands of years ago. Del had found hidden files inside it, files that matched the pattern in the SOS signal. They described a creature not made of flesh, not built of machines, but of memory. It didn't kill with weapons, rewrote history, erased entire species from the timeline so they had never existed at all. It fed on remembrance. It hunted emotion, and it feared one thing: pain that refuses to be forgotten. Del activated the beacon and let it scan the ship. "Let's see if you remember us," he whispered. The beacon pulsed, and for a moment the lights flickered. Then a voice echoed from its core. "You burn too brightly. You do not fade. You are not like the others." Del stepped back. It wasn't speaking about the ship. It was speaking about humanity. On Earth, Panic was growing. The news had leaked. People knew something terrible was coming. Every world government received the same public message from New Earth Command. The Armada has launched. Prepare all colonies for blackout. Trust the Deathworlders. But people didn't want silence. They wanted to know what the enemy was. What it wanted? Why Earth had been warned when others were consumed? At the base of Mount Kibo in Africa, it's an old monk, one of Earth's last oral. Historians recorded a simple message for the stars. We remember those who came before. If you erase us, you erase their songs. We will not allow that. We are Earth, and our stories will not die quietly. Back in space, the Archangel finally reached the edge of known space. Ahead, only darkness, no stars, no light. A black wall, stretching across space like a curtain. Zara stared. Is that a boundary? Del appeared beside her holding a datapad. It's not a wall. It's a memory field. A living one. Rains joined them. Explain. Del zoomed. And this isn't space. It's a shell made of dead thoughts, forgotten planets, lost wars, erased civilizations. The enemy hides behind a curtain of silence. Can we pass through it? Zara asked. Only if we carry something it fears. Del held up the beacon. It fears those who refuse to forget. General Rains looked out at the black wall, then activated the fleet-wide channel. His voice echoed across every ship. We are not here to explore. We are not here to talk. We are the last light in the dark. It's the last memory that fights back. If this thing thinks it can erase us, it will learn what Earth does to monsters. He paused. We don't fade. We don't forget. We burn. As the fleet powered forward, the darkness ahead pulsed. The wall began to move not away, but toward them. From the void, something enormous began to take shape. Not a ship, not a creature. A presence. A storm made of screams and whispers. Cities flickering in and out of time. People crying out who never existed. Zara gasped. It's already started. Del looked down at the beacon. The glow turned red. It knows we're here. At that moment, every ship in the Deathworlder Armada received a transmission. From Earth, not from the enemy, but from a ship that had vanished 200 years ago, the X-Odyssey. Its voice was broken, its hull long gone. But its captain's words still echoed. If you find this, run. It doesn't kill you. It makes you forget you were ever alive. And then the stars vanished. All of them. The stars were gone. Every screen aboard the ECS Archangel showed only darkness. Not black space filled with hidden galaxies, but absolute nothingness, like reality itself had been peeled away. Even the sensors cried out in confusion. There was no data, no time drift, no energy signatures. It was as if the fleet was floating inside a void of unbeing. General Elias Rains stood on the bridge, his jaw tight, eyes locked on the strange blackness beyond the forward viewport. Commander Zara Cole sat frozen at her console, trying to reboot the ship's navigation systems for the third time. They didn't jam us, she said quietly. They erased the idea of stars. The crew behind her stayed silent.
Ow.
Some crossed themselves. Others clutched trinkets from Earth. No one had ever seen a phenomenon like this, not even in black hole systems or neutron clouds. It wasn't space, it was forgetting in the science bay. Delcorin stared at the beacon crystal. That it had gone from. Red to white, pulsing like a heartbeat. And it wasn't reacting to the void. It was reacting to something inside it. Del checked the coordinates. What he found made him stop breathing for a moment. There's something there, he whispered. What? Do you mean? Ara Moon, the fleet's neural warfare specialist, leaned over his shoulder. A planet, Del said, but it doesn't match any chart. It shouldn't exist. It's not on any database, not even the forbidden ones. Era frowned. Then how do you know it's there? Turned the screen. The beacon had drawn a sketch. A rough outline. It looked like a planet surrounded by jagged rings, but the rings were not made of rock. They were made of memory fragments. Words, images, faded screams, vanished languages, a world made of forgotten things, Era whispered. Rains entered the bay and saw the projection. Set a course. Take us in. Zara's voice came through. Comes. Sir, we don't have nav data, then we fly blind, he replied. The fleet pushed forward, moving into the unnatural darkness. The deeper they went, the heavier the silence became. It wasn't just quiet, it was empty, kind of silence that seemed to press into the mind. Some crew began hearing voices. Others saw flashes of earth-burning cities, lost lovers, long-dead pets. One pilot screamed and pulled his ship away, yelling about a childhood memory that never happened. On the Archangel, the officers fought to keep focus. Whatever this place is, Era said, her face pale, it's feeding off us. Reading our memories. Del nodded grimly. This isn't a battlefield, it's a mirror, a trap for our thoughts. Then, suddenly, light. The fleet dropped out of faster-than-light and the void peeled open like a curtain. Before them hung a planet, dark gray, cracked like burnt stone. No clouds, no atmosphere, but glowing across its surface were ruins. Buildings remnants of memories. Each ruin was different. Some looked like ancient Earth temples. Others resembled Martian colonies. One even looked like the new Tokyo spaceport, but twisted, broken, melted into stone. It was a graveyard of forgotten places. The Archangel slowed to orbit. Other ships held position. No weapons fired. No threats detected, because the threat was the planet itself. As Rain stared at the cracked world, Zara whispered what they were all thinking. It looks like someone tried to build a world out of lost history. Del's voice was low. What if this is where it stores what it eats? Ara turned. You mean memories? No, Del said. Civilizations. Everything it's ever erased. A scout team launched from the Archangel 6 Marines and 2 tech officers in drop suits. They descended through the empty orbit, guided only by instinct and static echoes. When they landed, they found no life. No wind, no sound, just endless ruins and structures half faded out of existence. One building shifted in front of them, its form morphing between a human hospital, a temple, and a Martian biodash lab. The scout team's audio cut in. The ground isn't stable. It's like walking on unfinished thoughts, like dreams that forgot what they were supposed to be. Something's calling to us. From below. Suddenly, the feed cut out. The entire team vanished from sensors. Not killed, just gone. Back aboard. The fleet panic grew. Several crew members began acting strangely, reciting poems in languages no one remembered teaching them, drawing symbols that hadn't existed for millennia. One officer stabbed herself in the hand and whispered, "I'm not me. I'm someone you forgot." Rains locked down the fleet. No one on or off the ships. The crews were breaking. And it wasn't from fear, it was from confusion of identity. The planet was pushing into their minds, rewriting them. In desperation, Del activated the beacon again. Its light pulsed blue, then green. A voice echoed not through speakers, but in the minds of everyone in the command deck. You do not belong here. This is the place of silence. The place where stories come to die. Era stumbled back, grabbing her head. It's inside our language centers. It's trying to make us forget our own words. Rain shouted, "Shut it down." But Del held firm. "No, listen." The voice continued. "You are not like the others. You are fire. You do not erase. You carve your pain into stars." A pause. "Then, why do you fight to remember? Why do you cling to grief?" Rains leaned forward. "What?" "Because grief is proof we lived." Then the planet answered in the only way. It knew. A shape rose from its surface. Gigantic. Faceless. Made of thousands of memories smashed together. A floating construct of ships, bones, steel, voices. An emotion. It wasn't alive. It was a sentient wound, and it was staring at Earth's. "Fleet!" Zara's voice cracked on the comms. "Sir, what is that?" Rain spoke slowly. "The thing we came to fight." Suddenly all ship screens slit, and every soldier aboard saw the same thing, their own face holder. Broken and whispering, "You died here." Then silence. The fleet had faced storms, hostile alien empires, and wars that shattered planets. But nothing like this. The figure that rose from the dead planet below wasn't just a machine or creature. It was a thought given shape, a being made of pain, remembrance, and erasure. It hovered in the void, massive and silent, built from the bones of 1,000 forgotten species. Glowing fragments of ruined cities floated around it like moons. Human faces flickered across its surface faces from long-lost soldiers. Dead friends, even living crew members, twisted into masks of sorrow, and then it spoke, not through sound, through memory. Every person aboard the Deathworlder fleet felt it at once, a presence in their minds. Digging deep, pulling up thoughts they had buried for years. Childhood fears, lost family, regrets, shames, failures. On the ECS Tempest, Zara dropped to her knees, gasping for breath. She saw her father, who had died when she was a child, standing on the bridge, whispering her name. On the ECS Hammerfall, Sergeant Wren screamed as the memories of the Martian riots replayed in perfect, painful detail, his squad dying. One by one in front of him, the fleet was under attack, but not by weapons, by memory warfare. General Rains stormed into the neural warfare chamber, where Ara Moon sat trembling inside her interface chair. Wires ran from her skull to the ship's systems. Sweat poured from her brow. Her eyes were closed, locked in deep connection with the fleet's psychic defenses. "It's learning," she gasped. "It's inside our heads. It's not just showing us our memories, it's rewriting them." "Can we block it?" Rains demanded. Ara shook her head. "It's not a signal. It's a presence. It's already here. It's always been here. It's a planet below. It's just where it collects what it erases." Delcorin entered, holding the beacon, its light flickering wildly. "We found something," he said. "This enemy, it was once a galactic archive. Long before us. A vault of every story, every species, every war. But then it changed." "Changed how?" Rains asked. "It stopped recording, and it started consuming. The more it remembered, the more it wanted silence. Now it believes peace means forgetting everything that hurts. That's why it wipes history. It thinks pain is a disease." Rains clenched his fists. Then were the worst infection it's ever seen. On every ship, the death count climbed not from wounds, but from loss of self. Crew members forgot who they were. Some didn't remember how to breathe. Others collapsed, repeating fragments of memories like broken machines. On the Archangel Dezo, one pilot opened an airlock and stepped into space, smiling. Last words were, "I already died, didn't I?" And then she was gone. Rains activated. Fleet-wide broadcast. "Listen to me. All of you. This thing wants you to give up. It wants to bury your past, your name, your pain. But we are Deathworlders. We survived Earth. We remember every scar, every storm, every grave. If you feel like you're losing yourself, hold on to someone else's name, say it out loud, carve it into your bones if you have to, but do not forget who you are. We fight not just with weapons, but with truth." Slam the comms off, and turned to Ara. "We need to fight it on its own ground." Ara looked up, her face pale. "Then we'll need to link to it, to the memory field," Del asked. "No, to the mind behind it." Inside the neural chamber, Ara synced the beacon with the Archangel's core AI. She connected her thoughts to the signal field surrounding the planet. The risk was enormous. If she lost focus for even a second, she could be erased. The lights dimmed. Ara's body stiffened. Then she spoke, but it wasn't her voice. "You are fire. You are broken. You scream too loud. Why do you cling to pain?" Rains leaned in. "Because pain means we mattered. You could forget. You could rest." "Why do you resist?" "Because if we forget," Rains growled, "we let you win." The enemy reacted suddenly. The planet below cracked open, revealing a swirling black core, filled with flickering memories. Cities, ships, people, all swirling in slow death. Earth's own past was their 2 wars, long thought lost moments. No one remembered, and events that hadn't happened yet. AYRA gasped. "It's not just consuming the past. It's erasing the future." Del paled. It's trying to overwrite the story of reality itself, Zara called from the bridge. Sir, the other ships are going dark. No AI, no memory logs. They're forgetting how to fly. Rains had no choice. Activate the Grey Wall protocol. Everyone stared. The Grey Wall was Earth's most dangerous weapon. Pure analog systems. No AI, no memory reliance. Pilots had to fly with instinct alone. Manual targeting. Old metal guns. Handwritten notes. A return to the most brutal form of war. It was humanity's last wall against forgetting. Across the fleet, systems shut down. Manual control lit up. Pilots strapped in with paper maps. Gunners read numbers from physical charts. Engineers shouted across rooms instead of relying on data. And in that chaos, humanity remembered something important. They had always been strongest when forced to survive with nothing but will. The Deathworlder fleet roared back to life. Ships turned toward the planet, armed not with high-tech AI, but with rage, grief, and memory. They launched analog warheads, fired emotion-based charge rounds, broadcast the names of every dead soldier into the void, forcing the enemy to feel what Earth refused to forget. A wire still connected, screamed, "It doesn't understand." Never learned what it meant to be human. The black presence pulsed in for the first time. It screamed back. And in that moment, Era saw something deeper. At the center of the black core, buried under centuries of stolen time, was a voice. Single, weak voice. Human. Help. I'm still here. It was the pilot from the ECS Odyssey. Lost for 200 years, still alive, still remembering. Awire opened her eyes, bleeding from her nose. I know how we beat it. Rains turned. How? She smiled weakly. We don't destroy it. We make it remember us. The black planet no longer loomed in the void. Where the monstrous memory eater once hovered, now drifted a soft, radiant, glow-shattered remnants of lost civilizations flickering gently like embers in deep space. The darkness had been peeled back, but the war wasn't over. Ina floated at the center of it all inside her pod. Unconscious but alive, the beacon's crystal pulsing faintly in her grasp. Around her, memories once locked in chains drifted free echoes of 1,000 lives. Voices of entire species now whispering again through the stars. Aboard the ECS Archangel, the crew watched in stunned silence. She did it, Era whispered. She made it remember itself. But Delcorn wasn't smiling. He stood stiffly at his console, staring at a scan only he could read. His fingers trembled. It's not done, he said. We saw the outer shell fall but the core. It's still there. It's still holding something back. Zara turned. More memories? Del's eyes met Rains's. No, not memories. Something else. Something alive. Beneath the glow. Beneath the fragments of liberated history. Another. Shape was forming deeper, slower, far more ancient than anything the fleet had encountered. It wasn't made of stolen memory. It was made of choice. Era's neural scanner sparked wildly. This isn't the same entity. This is something deeper. Older, I think. The memory eater was just a shell, a shield to hold this prisoner. Del nodded. A being so old it doesn't just remember the galaxy it built parts of it. Zara narrowed her eyes. You're saying something else has been trapped under that monster this whole time? Rains clenched his jaw. Then we go in. Before it wakes. The fleet reformed. The Deathworlders, now operating on manual analog protocols. Approached the glowing debris field cautiously. Sensors failed. Scans broke down. But the beacon guided them, pulsing brighter the closer they came to the heart of the entity. Suddenly, silence broke. Not with sound, but with laughter. Twisting, hollow, not quite real. Ah, you woke me. The voice wasn't hostile. It was amused. Del recognized it instantly. No, it can't be, Ara gasped. It's not just a mind, it's a designer. A myth. Brains frowned. Explain. Del stepped back. There was an old Terran theory older than deep space. Travel. Before we reached the stars, some scientists believe the universe began with intelligence, that before the Big Bang, there was a mind. Zara scoffed. A god? No, Del said quietly. A program. A living design, built to observe. Time unfold. But when entropy began, it panicked, tried to freeze moments. Hold on, save everything, Ura whispered, and it created the memory eater. As a container. The being spoke again. I built the vault, I built the eater, I built the cage. For myself, but even I cannot forget the fire that burns at the center of Earth. Pause. You are the only ones who resisted forgetting, the only ones who gave pain meaning. Is dangerous? That is beautiful. So now, I ask a question. A pulse of raw energy spread through the fleets, so intense that dozens of crew collapsed. Everyone heard the next words inside their skulls. Do you want to be my heirs? Heirs? Nose bled. Zara's hands trembled. Rain stood still, barely breathing. Del swallowed hard. It wants to pass on its knowledge. All of it. The knowledge of the stars. Of time. Of what existed before existence, Ara said. But that would change us forever. Zara's voice cracked. Or destroy us. Minds aren't made to hold infinity. Then came the twist. Only one may. Carry it. One mind, one soul, or I will fade. And the past will fade with me. The crew knew who that one would be. Ina, but Ina was still unconscious, her mind drifting inside the beacon's field. Only she, born without history, shaped by silence, could survive the transfer. Rains turned to Era. Can we guide her? Help her accept it? Era shook her head. No, she has to choose, and we can't tell her what the price will be. Del added. If she accepts it, she'll stop being human. Rains clenched his fists, and if she refuses, Ara looked away. Then the forgotten returns. The eater reforms. The galaxy's memory collapses. Inside the beacon's glow, Ina stirred. She heard the voices, the offer, the hunger, the choice. And in the darkness of her mind, she stood before a figure, not a monster, not a machine, but a mirror of herself. The ancient architect of memory. Do you want to remember everything? Ina looked at her own reflection, then thought of Earth, the faces of the people who feared forgetting, the names of the dead whispered by the living, and she said aboard the Archangel the beacon exploded. In light, not fire light made of stories, it swept through the fleet like a tidal wave. No one died. No one screamed, but every human aboard suddenly knew the truth. They remembered not just their own lives, the entire history of the galaxy. Del fell to his knees, weeping. She said yes. Rains turned to the glowing form now, floating. Above the memory core, Ina had changed. Not into a god, but into something clear. Still human, still herself. But now carrying every forgotten soul, every scream, every lullaby. She was the keeper now, and Earth's greatest weapon had become the galaxy's first librarian of pain. The scream of the memory entity still echoed through space, not as sound, but as a shudder in existence. It wasn't pain in the way living things felt, it was something older, deeper, a disturbance in the very nature of being, the Deathworlder. Armada had struck the impossible. It had made a creature that erased memory feel its own. But that moment of victory was brief. On the outer edges of the fleet, two ships winked out of reality. No explosion, no debris. They simply vanished, erased, as if they had never launched. Inside the ECS Archangel, red lights flooded the bridge. Backup systems flickered as the mainframe rebooted in analog. Data logs melted into blank pages. Even the crew's bioscanners. Reset, forgetting their own identities. We're losing our names, whispered Zara, staring at her own ID badge. The letters were fading, turning to static. General Rains stood at the center of the chaos. This thing isn't attacking us, he said grimly. It's deconstructing our story. It's turning us into a memory it can bury. Era Moon, pale and shaking, pointed to the beacon core. We have one chance, But we can't do it from here. Rains nodded. It's time to wake the weapon. Back on Earth, buried beneath the sands of the Namib wastes, was a facility known only as Vault 9. It was a place no one spoke about, not in books, not in council meetings, not even among high command. It housed a weapon not meant to be fired, something Earth had made, then buried in fear. They called it Project Greyveil. It was not a bomb. It wasn't even metal. It was a child. 16 years ago, during the Martian collapse, a baby had been born inside a collapsing memory field. Her parents had died moments later, their names never recorded. The child had no history, no grief, number, lineage. Her first breath came in a world being forgotten, and somehow she had survived, not just physically, mentally. The memory eater couldn't touch her. She was raised in isolation, trained not as a soldier, but as a counter-memory, a walking void of pure will. She had no past to erase, no family to lose. And yet she was human curious, angry, brilliant. Her name was Ina, inside Vault 9. As the planetary alarms screamed, Ina sat in silence. She had already seen what was happening in the stars. It echoed inside her skull, like a low hum that never stopped. She didn't hear voices or see hallucinations like others did, but she felt the weight pressing down on humanity. A knock came at the sealed chamber. It opened without waiting. 2 soldiers in black armor stepped in, and behind them, a hologram of General Rains appeared. "Ina," he said, "we need you." She stood. "I know," she replied. Ina was transported off Earth on a stealth cruiser. As the Deathworlder fleet faltered against the collapsing timeline, the girl with no past flew through the stars, toward the one enemy who had tried to unright existence and failed because of her. On the Archangel, Era greeted her with a mix of awe and fear. "You're exactly like I imagined," she whispered. Ina smiled. "You imagined wrong." The plan was simple and insane. Ina would be inserted into the core memory stream of the entity. Using the beacon and the last functioning neural gate, her mind would be broadcast directly into the enemy's heart, where its collected memories swirled in chaos. But Ina wouldn't be a victim. She would be a virus. Before launch, Rain stood with Ina in the dark hangar. "You're not just a weapon," he said softly. "You're our last word. The one thing it can't erase." She looked up at him with sharp eyes. "Then make sure it hears me." Ina's drop pod launched at full velocity, slipping through the void. As she passed through the planet's memory shell, she saw fragments of forgotten civilizations float by, entire histories the enemy had devoured. Cities frozen mid-scream. Alien children crying out for parents who had never been born. And then she breached the core. Inside the entity, there was no light, no shape, just memory storms, fragments of voices, faces, broken thoughts. "We tried to stop it. I was captain once, wasn't I? Please, I had a name." Enemy's presence noticed her, but it couldn't read her. She was blank. Not hollow, not empty, pure. A spike of confusion rippled through the memory sea. "What are you?" the voice asked. Ina stepped forward inside the mental field. Her body hovered, her mind anchored by the beacon. "I'm the part of humanity you can't understand. You have no grief, no story, no sorrow. That's why you can't erase me," she said. "'Cause I'm not a memory, I'm a future." The entity writhed. Its core pulsed with stolen timelines, twisting them around her. It showed her a dead Earth, a forgotten humanity. It tried to crush her with futures that didn't happen. Ina walked forward, and she began to tell a story. Not from her past, but from her dreams. A world where Earth remembered everything, every fall, every tear, every war. She spoke of humans who sang to the stars even while bleeding, of mothers who held on through silence, of children who drew suns in the dust of ruined cities. And as she spoke, the enemy began to change. Its form cracked. It started to remember not just the pain it absorbed, but the feeling behind it. On the Archangel, Ara felt the shift. "She's doing it," she gasped. "It's feeling memory not as weight but as meaning." Del stared at the sensor data. The entity's collapsing. not dying, transforming. Brains whispered, "We didn't kill it. We reminded it." Inside the memory core, the swirling chaos slowed. A voice spoke clear, soft, ancient. "I do not want to forget anymore." Ina smiled, one tear sliding down her cheek. "Then remember us." The entity began to rewrite itself, turning memory into story, pain, into purpose. And at its center, it created a seed, a small, glowing orb, and it gave it to Ina. "Take this. A new beginning." The fleet watched as the dark planet cracked apart, not in explosion, but in release. The stolen memories drifted into space like fireflies. Stars returned, ships reappeared, time stabilized, and in the middle of it all, Ina's pod drifted gently, carrying the last light of a being that once devoured civilizations, but now remembered why they mattered. Ina floated above the broken ruins of the Memoriator's core, her body glowing with the soft fire of remembered truths. She no longer drifted like a lost child. She stood, suspended in zero gravity, with the full weight of ancient knowledge coiled inside her. But she was still human, still Ina, aboard the ECS Archangel. The bridge crew stared in stunned silence. Lights had returned across the fleet. Systems that had gone dark suddenly pulsed to life, not through traditional power, but through a strange new energy that hummed with meaning. Aramoon pressed a shaking hand to her temple. "I can feel her in everything. She's broadcasting memory, pure, living memory, into our ship's systems. It's not data, it's identity." Del Corin looked down at his screen. "Something's responding." Zara glanced up from the core. "No," Del whispered. From the stars, across the galaxy, something had changed. In a backwater colony, once thought lost during the Wars of Reversal, people looked up as the sky shimmered, and suddenly, they remembered the names of their ancestors. On a silent moon where no birds had ever flown, ancient murals glowed as if painted yesterday. Forgotten cities, erased cultures. Even entire species flickered back into existence, not as flesh, but as memory woven into the fabric of time. The entire galaxy was awakening. And that awakening had consequences. Back at the site of the Memory Eater's ruin, new alarms flared. Era stumbled forward. "We have inbound energy spikes, massive gravitational echoes. Something's coming." Through the remembrance field, Del scanned the signals, heart racing. "It's not just one thing, it's many." Zara's eyes widened. "How many?" Del stared at her, pale. "All of them." The forgotten were returning ships long lost in space, blinked back into real space. Wrecked, scorched, but real. Entire battle fleets that had vanished in past centuries reappeared. Alien species once declared extinct flickered into consciousness. But not all of them were peaceful. The Memoriator hadn't just stored lost history, it had stored old enemies. And now that Ina had broken the lock, they were free. Dozens of ships appeared without warning. Not Deathworlder, not Earth-made. These were relics craft powered by technologies humanity had never seen. Some pulsed with organic light, others twisted space like knots. One resembled a swarm of shadowed drones held together by a collective thought. Era's screen blinked red. Coming transmission. Untranslated. Origin. Unknown. Threat level. Maximum. Del listened as the message came through. Wasn't speech, it was accusation. Who dares unseal the vault of pain? Who burns the veil between was and wasn't? Who remembers the war that ended the stars? On the bridge, General Rains stood tall. "We do," he said coldly. "We remember." Zara turned. "General, some of these ships are older than lightspeed travel. How are they still functional?" "Not," Del answered. "They're being held together by memory alone, by the pain that refused to die." Ina hovered in orbit, glowing brighter as the ancient enemies formed up around her. She knew what was coming. These weren't just survivors, they were avengers. Pieces of forgotten wars, hungry Hefrembered weapons that believed their fight had never ended. And now, They saw Eartha only species strong enough to remember pain and keep going as a threat. A voice thundered across every frequency. You should have let us stay forgotten. Now you will join us in the silence. The Deathworlder fleet moved fast. No hesitation, no retreat. Rains gave the order. All units defend the beacon. Defend Ina. And ships armed with analog systems launched. Fighters moved in swarms. Cannons powered by grief pulse energy opened fire, ripping through enemy hulls with blasts that sang the names of the dead. For every second, the Earth fleet held the line. Ina transmitted more memory-restoring species, reigniting language, rebuilding history itself. But the enemies were relentless. On the ECS Bladefall, hulls cracked as forgotten neutron weapons struck. The ECS Seraph exploded under pressure from a gravitational scream the death thought of a species. It's lost 10,000 years ago. The Deathworlders fought like demons, because they were. They were the only race to look memory in the eye. Look away. In the center of the storm, Ina did something impossible. She split. Not her body, her consciousness. She extended herself into the memory streams of every approaching enemy. She showed them Earth not just its wars, but its heart. Mothers holding newborns on dying ships. Lovers writing names in dust before bombs fell. Children drawing stars after seeing them. For the first time, she didn't plead. She didn't argue. She shared. Some ships slowed. Some stopped firing. But not all. One war machine. A black ring of solid memory hatred surged forward, aimed directly at Ina. It moved faster than thought. No weapon could intercept it in time, and then boom. A Deathworlder cruiser, the ex-Valorborn, slammed into its path. No shields. No glory, just sacrifice. Zara whispered from the bridge. They died protecting. A memory. No, Rain said. They died becoming one. Ina opened her eyes, burning now with starfire. She was no longer alone in her mind. The memories of the Valorborn's crew were inside her, not gone, just carried. The ancient enemies paused, and one by one, they knelt, not in surrender, but in recognition. The war wasn't over, but it had changed. It was no longer about forgetting. It was now a war for what deserves to be remembered. The stars held their breath. Above the broken husk of the Memory Eater's ancient core, the Deathworlder fleet drifted in silence. All around them, the ghosts of the forgotten, the enemy ships from lost wars, the memories of extinct species, the rage of unhealed wounds hung in orbit, like knives waiting to fall. But they hadn't attacked again. Not yet. Not after Ina spoke to them through this memory. Not after they felt Earth's pain and understood that pain had meaning aboard the ECS Archangel. General Rain stood with Ara and Del, their faces lit by the eerie glow of the beacon's pulse. Ara's voice trembled. They're not leaving. Del shook his head slowly. They're listening. In the center of the battlefield, Ina floated like a sun. She was no longer a weapon. No longer just a girl born without history. She was the vessel of all memory now, in every part of the galaxy. Every being that had ever existed, good or evil, was watching her, waiting. Then spoke. Her voice carried across every ship, every mind, every data node. You were forgotten. You were buried in the silence, and now you ask, what do I do with you? She paused. The stars seemed to shiver. I carry you, not to rewrite the past, but to teach the future. Because the story of a galaxy is not just what was remembered, it is what was survived. One by one, the ancient enemy ships powered down. They didn't explode. They didn't vanish. They simply stopped. Their forms faded into threads of light, into memory. Then merged with the beacon's glow. They didn't die. They were finally at peace, and peace could only come through acknowledgement. The Deathworlder fleet had won not through firepower, but through something far more dangerous. Truth, but peace wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. The galaxy had changed. The beacon had awakened. History had returned, and now the universe was watching Earth, some with awe, others with fear, because the Deathworlders had done what no one else dared. They had taken the story no one wanted to hear and refused to let it be erased. Aboard the Archangel, the beacon dimmed slightly, its pulses settling into a calm rhythm. Ina's pod returned to the hangar, guided gently by light and gravity. She emerged slowly, no longer glowing but stronger, more human than ever. Rains met her in silence. "You saved us," he said. Ina shook her head. "We saved each other." Ara stepped forward, eyes still wide with wonder. "What happens now?" Ina looked out the viewport at the stars, now filled with restored voices, stories, ruins, rebuilt worlds. "We give them back what was taken. We help the forgotten remember who they were. We rebuild the library of everything that tried to survive." Zara whispered, "That'll take lifetimes." Ina smiled faintly. "Then we better get started." And so Earth became something more, not conqueror, not invader, but the keeper of the galaxy's story, the Deathworlders. Born in fire, forged in gravity, shaped by chaos, were now the guardians of remembrance. Because only they could carry memory. Without breaking, only they could walk through pain and emerge with purpose. In time, a monument was built, not on Earth, but at the center of where the Eater fell. A shining archive, made from the fragments of every species ever lost. Inside it, a single phrase glowed in every known language. "We were here." And beneath it, "We remember," because the universe had screamed for help, and Earth answered. With memory, fire, and steel.